Ohai. Dnipro. The fourth longest river of Europe after Volga, Danube and Ural, has the longest course in borders of Ukraine. Length of Dnipro from a source to the mouth in natural state was 2285. 2139 km now. After construction of a cascade of reservoirs, one in many places straightened a waterway minus 2201 km. Within Ukraine minus 1121 km, within Belarus minus 595 km. 115 km are in the boundary territory of Belarus and Ukraine. Within Russia minus 485 km. The area of a catchment basin minus card km, from them within Ukraine minus 298,400 km. An average consumption of water in the mouth minus 1670 m/s. A river bias minus 0.09 m/km. Dnipro, the flat river with a slow and quiet current. As the twisting course, forms sleeves, rifts, islands, channels and shallows. Is divided into three parts. Headwaters, from a source to Kiev, 1320 km. An average, from Kiev to Zaporizhia, 555 km. And lower, from Zaporizhia to the mouth, 325 km. The direction of a current several times changes. From sources to Orsha, Dnipro flows on the southwest, further to Kiev, directly on the south, from Kiev to Dnipro, on the southeast. To Zaporizhia there is the second, shorter length of 90 km. The piece of the river directed to the south. Further to the estuary, it flows in the southwest direction. As Dnipro forms in the territory of Ukraine, similarity of the big onions turned on the east that doubles a way across Dnipro from the central Ukraine to the Black Sea. Distance from Kiev to the mouth of Dnipro in a straight line minus 450 km, down the river minus 950 km. Width of the valley of the river up to 18 km. Floodplain width up to 12 km. The area of the delta minus 350 km. Dnipro originates in the small swamp of Mshar on the outskirts of the marshland, the natural boundary the Kseninsky Moss, in the forest area the Akovsky Wood on the southern slope of Valdai Hills, at the village of Bukharova of Sychyovsky district of the Smolensk region of Russia 2. 1. From slopes of Valdai Hills also Volga, the western Dwina, Lovit, Sias and Mologa flow down. Dnipro falls into the Dnepropetrovsky estuary of the Black Sea. In the top part in Dorogobash, Dnipro is still shallow and its width up to 30 m flows among the woody plain. It's generally waters of the woody and marshy right bank. Below, from Dorogobusha to Orsha, it flows already in the western direction, extends up to 120 m and becomes floatable, and at high water even navigable. Above Orsha, Dnipro crosses the Devonian limestones, forming small Kabelyatsky thresholds. From Orsha to Kiev the river flows directly on the south and at Robichwov comes to Polisia lowland, and from Lviv flows already across the territory of Ukraine. From Kiev to the city of Dnipro, Dnipro River passes on a border zone of the Dnipro Height and Dnipro Lowland. Valley of the river here clearly asymmetric. The right slopes abrupt and high, left low and flat. The right coast towers on 100-150 m. It is cut up by deep valleys and ravines, forms a picturesque mountain landscape. On such Dnipro mountains Kiev and below, at Kinev lies on the Cherniky. Tarasova mountain, Taras Shevchenko's grave is located. The left coast low, sandy, often covered with the pine forest, towers on the east wide terraces. The valley of the river wide, 6-10 km, at Pereslov and Cherkass even of 15-18 km, width of the river -200-1200 m. Below Cherkass, before creation of the Kremenchuk reservoir, Dnipro was divided into sleeves and formed islands. Between the cities of Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia the river crosses the Ukrainian border. In the past exactly there were thresholds, now they are filled in with waters of the Dnipro reservoir. Below Zaporizhzhia Dnipro is included into steppe Pry. 300-400 m of rainfall a year. The plain of the Black Sea lowland and slowly flows on the southwest to the sea. Lower the narrowing of the course, at the northern district of Zaporizhzhia, Kichkasa, the river is divided into two branches which are flowing round the big and rocky granite island Hortitsa. Width of the valley of Dnipro in this place -4 km. Further it extends up to 20 km. Earlier the river below Hortitsa flowed many courses on the marshy plain which during summer floods was filled in the spring by water. These are the so-called plavan covered with the deciduous wood, cane, ragosi, water meadows, lakes, swamps. The largest plavan stretched between Dnipro and its left inflow by the horse tram, the so-called Great Meadow. Width up to 20 km, length up to 60 km. Separated by a narrow strip more smoothly near the city of Nikopol from the second wide complex, Bozovletsky more smoothly. But the valley of the river changed after a construction of the second large dam on Dnipro and a big Kakhovsky reservoir. Now almost all territory Great Luga, except for several hundred hectares in a southeast part of the island Hortitsa and on the left coast, is filled in with waters of the Kakhovsky reservoir which is also called the Kakhovsky Sea. Below the right inflow, the Bazaluk River, the valley of Dnipro is again narrowed, floodplain width here 3-7 km, and at confluence with the estuary up to 10 km. In the city of Kakhovka both river banks high. Near Nikopol -80 m. From Kakhovka left low. Below Kakhovka an estuarial part of Dnipro begins. From Kherson the river is divided into sleeves and forms the big delta. 350 km. With a set of ostrovs and lakes. About 2/3 deltas are occupied by plavan, 1/3 water. Dnipro joins the Dnipro and Buksky estuary several small mouths, the most important of them, Spirivskoy, Khyzelmitskoy and Bokokra Grabber. Deepening of the last allows sea motor ships to reach Kherson. Catchment area. The water mode of Dnipro decides by well-expressed spring high water, low summer to a mezzanine on periodic summer floods, regular autumn increase in water level and winter to a mezzanine. The area of the basin of Dnipro -card km, from them within Ukraine -291,400 km. A share of the area of a reservoir of the river in the territory of Ukraine, more than 48%. The top part of the basin of Dnipro is located around excessive and sufficient moistening. A forest zone. Average around unstable. A forest steppe zone in the north of the steppe, and lower around insufficient moistening. A steppe zone. Food of Dnipro mixed. In the top part of the pool, snow food, about 50%, prevails on rain and underground. 20 and 30% are necessary respectively. Below, within a steppe zone, the share of snow food increases up to 85–90%, underground decreases up to 10–15%, and rain is almost not present. About 80% of an annual drain of Dnipro are formed in the top part of the pool, where many rainfall and evaporation small drops up. In particular, the top Dnipro with Berezina and Sos gives 35% of annual Massachusetts of water, Pripyat -26% and Desna -21%. An average annual drain of the river near Kiev -43.4 billion m. 1370 m/s. And in the mouth -53.5 billion m. 1700 m/s. The greatest percent of water, 55–57% of annual quantity, flows down to Dnipro in spring months, March–May, when snow thaw, the smallest in the winter, 12%. For summer, June–August, 17–21% of an annual drain are the share of fall. September–November, -12–14%. Deviations from these data are quite considerable. For example, the spring drain of water in Kiev fluctuates in different years from 46 to 78%. The water mode of the river significantly changed after construction of a cascade of reservoirs. Dnipro turned and eroded along artificial lakes separated by dams and artificial falls from natural pieces of the river. Channels with numerous locks are on both sides dike. Reservoirs level water level in Dnipro, and below dams the ice cover keeps less. But their construction broke ecological equilibrium, radically changed water exchange conditions. In comparison with an environment, it slowed down by 14–30 times. The number of inflows of Dnipro is small in comparison with other rivers of similar size. Their distribution on a watercourse vary unevenly. Most of all inflows is concentrated in a part from a source to Kiev. In the basin of Dnipro 15380 small rivers are about 25% of their total in Ukraine flow. Their total length -km. From them the rivers less than 10 km long with the total extent of 35041 km. In the top part, at the city of Dorogobuzh, Dnipro is still the small river. In the territory of Ukraine it becomes already much deeper, as by this moment accepts the largest inflows. In the Belarusian territory, right hand and Berezina abounding in water. Length -613 km, drain size -24530 km. And left side Sos, 648 km and 42140 km. In the territory of Ukraine, Pripyat, 802 km and 114,300 km. And Desna, 1187 km and 88840 km. And small inflows the Black Grouse and Irpin. After confluence of these rivers, width of Dnipro reaches 700 m, depth -8 m. The water consumption, an amount of water which proceeds in 1 second, increases in the river from 45 m At Orsha up to 108 m at Rogachov and 1380 m near Kiev. Inflows which are accepted by Dnipro in the average current less considerable than in top and are significantly poorer in water. Right inflows. Stugna, Rosentai Asman, short, flow mainly narrow courses which are cut out in a granite bed. Left originating generally on central Russian upland and crossing all Dnipro lowland, long, wide, with low coast and terraces. It is Trubez, Supo, Sula. 457 km, Dipul minus 19640 km. With Udaim Sal. 806 km and 22820 km. Vorska. 421 km and 21400 km. And the Samara. 391 km and 23180 km. But all of them increase in amount of water in Dnipro slightly. In the winter Dnipro freezes usually after the 20-day period during which temperature below 0 C keeps. Freezing begins with the north, an opening of an ice cover with the south. Thanks to it jams of ice and floods caused by them on Dnipro happen seldom. Navigation on Dnipro depends on duration of a spring ice drift and the beginning autumn. According to the observation posts equipped on the river at the end of the 19th century, duration of spring opening of ice on Dnipro then averaged from 5 to 12 days, and the longest ice drift was in the top part of the river, between Dorogashuz and Mogilev, and in a middle part, between Kiev and Thresholds inclusive. The autumn ice drift didn't influence navigation, though always lasted much longer, on average from 9 to 37 days, and was on the site from the mouth of Pripyat to Thresholds inclusive longer. From a source to the mouth Dnipro proceeds across the territory of 3 states: Russia, Belarus and Ukraine. The river and its inflows on certain sites serve as natural border between the countries. They also irrigate 12 densely populated areas, 1 in Russia, Smolensk region, 3 in Belarus, the Vitebsk, Mogilev, Komo region, 9 in Ukraine, the Chernihiv, Kiev, Cherkassk, Khyrovorod, Poltava, Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporozhye, Kherson and Nikolaev region. On riverbanks more than 50 big and small cities, including the capital of Ukraine, Kiev, are located. On the Ukrainian side of Dnipro 25 cities are located: Vyshgorod, 22933 inhabitants. Kiev, card. Ukrainian, 13978. Kiev, 26426. Cherkasy, 295,500. Svetlovodsk, 49938. Kremenchuk, card. Kirishnaye Plavny, 51832. Verkhny Dniprovsk, 16680. Kamensk, 273,700. Dnipro, card. Zaporizhia, card. Vasilievka, 15507. Dnipro, 21900. Enerhodar, 55800. Nikopol, 128,369. Kamenka Dnipro, 15406. Berislav, 15425. Kakovka, 38000. New Kakovka, 52611. Tavrisk 11757. Alyoshki 31100. Kherson Card. Naked Pier 15902. Ochakov 14705. In Dnipro and its reservoirs as of January 1, 1999 there lived representatives of 8 systematic departments of seaweed. Blue-green, Diatomovi, green, Dinofitovi, Evelenovi, yellow, Colden, Cryptophytovi. Green are especially various. Among them Vilvoxovi, Protokokovi, Eulatrixovi, Zygnemovi, Desmidievi seaweed intensively developed. The quantity of species of seaweed, intensity of their development on different sites of Dnipro to a considerable measure change depending on ecological features of a part of reservoirs, seasons, depth and time of day. As of January 1, 1999, total number of species of the seaweed found in plankton and reservoirs of Dnipro I made 1192 views, and together with intraspecific forms -1574. On different sites of Dnipro before control and in different years of existence of reservoirs showed 69 species of the higher water plants, macrophyte. Construction of reservoirs significantly affected water and coastal vegetation of Dnipro and its floodplain. Some plants didn't sustain new living conditions, others, on the contrary, developed more better. Therefore the specific structure of plants before flooding on all sites of Dnipro changed. Now several tens of species of the higher water plants, but special differences in quantity of the presented types grow in each of reservoirs, it is noted. The most intensive overgrowing goes on the Kiev and Kremenchuk reservoirs. Considerable massifs of thickets were created on the Kremenchuk reservoir by 7th year of his existence. On the Kakhovsky reservoir it was noticed only on the 12th year of existence, but in much smaller scales. The total number of species of the higher water plants of the estuarial area of Dnipro, without Dnipro estuary, includes 72 views which belong to 28 families and 42 childbirths. The plants shipped in water, Gidrophyta, -33 views dominate. Plants with floating leaves, Gidotophyte, -19 types. Aeroaquatic -20 types. The highest water vegetation of the Dnipro and Bykski estuary is presented by 26 types. With increase in a mineralization of water from the delta of Dnipro to the Kinbrensky braid, the number of types is reduced from 25 types in east part of the estuary to 7 types in western. Significant areas of not overgrown shallows are concentrated in the western part of the estuary, where a great influence of sea water and the main massifs have grown in east part along a first line of the Dnipro delta and at the left coast. Nearly a half of the types growing in the estuary is a marsh vegetation, mainly a cane and narrow-leaved. Aeroaquatic plants, reed, a cane lake and partially narrow-leaved, occupy the fifth part of bushes. The ship vegetation, about 30%. Dominates edge, curly, to a nut-eared, the rogolistnik shipte valisnaria spiral, the naiad sea. Among vegetation with floating leaves, the largest spaces are occupied by a water lily white, the jug yellow and a club moss thyroid. Formations of waternet are noted on very small sites now, though in the recent past they were widespread on big squares in gulfs and passages of the delta of Dnipro. Almost all from the fishes known in Ukraine, more than 70 types are found in Dnipro. Lower reaches of the river are richer with fish, -60-65 types, whereas near Kiev only 40 are found there. The most widespread Karpovy, a bream, a crucian, a sazan, an ide, siblips, small fry, a guster, a tench. Through passage and fishes semi-through passage. Herring, sturgeon, ram, also others. Who paced highly the current earlier, but after a construction of reservoirs linger on a dam, and even don't leave the lower current at all. Also the catfish, a pike perch, a pike, a perch meat. The special ecosystem is represented by the delta of Dnipro, interesting fishers since ancient times. In the top Dnipro many typical river fishes, including fishes through passage, a beluga, the Black Sea and Azov sturgeon, and a herring, a salmon, a river eel absolutely disappeared, and also the sterlet number, siblips, a chub, an ide, a jerrick, a tench decreased. Their place is taken by lake forms. A bream, about 40% of a catch. The pike, a catfish, a carp. Cultivated a form of a sazan I got to the river from pond farms. Small fry, a perch. In general, for a lifetime of reservoirs, a specific variety of fish in the Kakhovsky reservoir I decreased from 67 to 56, in the others, from 58 to 45, 50 types. From the available 56 species of fish of the Dnipro reservoirs, as of 2006, 13 carry to weed. Non-industrial fish who, because of the small sizes, has no industrial value. Only 23 views were useful. In the mid-50s the river gave about 80% of Asser of fish caught in the rivers by all. 7,811 tons per year. In the mid-90s tons that in a money equivalent exceeded 33 million hryvnias, and in 2000, 70,800 tons per year. In Dnipro, from lower reaches to Kiev, fish needle of Signathus meets. In 2010 she was found also in Belarus. Also 2 species of crayfish are found in Dnipro. Atkapeli and Tolstopli. Extent of Dnipro now. After construction of a cascade of reservoirs. -2201 km, within Ukraine -981 km, the area of a catchment basin -504,000 km. An average annual consumption of water in the mouth -1700 m/s. 53.5 km/year. An average expense near Kiev -1370 m/s. Spring of 7000 m/s. Speed of a current fluctuates from 0.3 to 1. 2 m/s on the side to the mouth of Desna. The prevailing current speed on underlying sites about 0.6, 0.7 m/s. Of water mineralization -300, 350 MAA/dam. Originates in the southern part of Valdai Hills near the village of Bukharova of Sychyovsky district of the Smolensk region, near the Lake Gavrilovskoye in Russia, falls into the Dnipro estuary of the Black Sea. There is a number of hypotheses of origin of the name of the river. Dnipro and Dniester, the words of the Celtic origin, from the general root Don, water. Dnipro and Dneister, that is meant respectively by the top river and the lower river. Dnieper, the word of the Thracian origin. Dnieper. In ancient sources, Danipris goes back to Turkic Dynporis. From a Turkic tin, silent, and boris, twisting. Historical data. In the ancient time, the riverbed of Dnieper had other direction. Since 16th century are suggested about possible communication of the name Berezina. Inflow of Dnieper. With the ancient Greek name of the Dnieper Borisfen, however this assumption, according to Fasimer, is groundless, as ancient had no exact data on the top and average Dnieper current. There is an assumption that the old mouth was located around Crimean Donuslava. Herodotus reports that Borisfen breaks up to 2 sleeves. Actually Borisfen, who falls into the estuary together with Japonis, and the Mister with Jipakiris, forming the extensive island. The story of temporary years narrates that Dnieper flows into the Pontic Sea 3 mouths. The first mentions of the river meet at Greeks in the 5th century BB. Herodotus named it Borisfen, the river from the north. At the Roman historians, the river received a name Danipris, the Slavic name of the period of Kievan Rus, the Slavitic. Dnieper was a part of the important tradeway connecting the Baltics to Black Sea coast, away from the Varangian and Greeks. On the lower Dnieper there was a natural barrier in the form of thresholds, which was overcome only in the contemporary history with construction of a dam of the Dnieper hydroelectric power station. On lands around the average Dnieper current in the 9th century, the kernel of Kievan Rus was created, the capital of Russia. Nowadays the capital of Ukraine. The city of Kiev was located here. In the 16th century, in a bend of the lower Dnieper, the base of the Ukrainian Cossacks, the Zaporizhia sect, serving as the buffer between steppe nomads and agricultural Slavic areas to the northwest, was created. Exactly from here in 1648 began the campaign on the west, the Cossack groups of Bogdan Khmelnytsky. In 1653-1793 across central Dnieper there passed the border of Russia and the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. Further, the central Dnieper bank became the largest industrial region of the south of the Russian Empire, and later the USSR and Ukraine. Here such industrial centers as Kremenchuk, Kamensk, Dniprodzerzhinsk, Dnieper, Ekaterinoslav and Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, Alexandrovsk, Nikopol are concentrated. In the city of Enerhodar there is the largest Zaporizhia NPP in Ukraine. In 1943 the grandiose Battle of Dnieper between armies of the USSR and Nazi Germany, during which Dnieper was forced, also took place. Hopes of Hitler to turn this natural barrier into an insuperable defensive boundary failed. Navigation. Dnieper is very important for transport and economy of Ukraine. All reservoirs are equipped with the big locks, allowing vessels the sizes up to 27018 meters to have access to the port of Kiev, and it creates a fine transport corridor. The river is also used by passenger ships. Cruises across Danube and Dnieper bring the increasing income per the last decades. Above Kiev, Pripyat falls into Dnieper. This navigable river connects to the Dnipro and Bukski Channel, is connected with the Western Bug. Communication with the Western European waterways is theoretically possible, but the dam without locks near the city of Brest interrupts the important international waterway. And near the city settlement of Loyev the Salz River flows into Dnipro. Early, on these rivers there was a regular passenger traffic Gomel, Kiev by rocket motor ships, Belarus, and now on this side of Dnipro only boundary boats go. The river is well known for the dams. The most known, the Projas in Zaporizhia, was constructed in 1927, 1932 and had power in 558 MUM. During World War II the station was partially destroyed by the receding Soviet troops, by 1950 was restored. In 1969-1975 the second turn of the station was entered. The Projas -2. The Kakhovsky hydroelectric power station was constructed by the second in 1950-1956, behind it Kremenchuk in 1954-1960, Kiev in 1960-1964, Srednydniprovsky. Dniprodzerzhinsk. In 1956, 1964, and in 1963-1975 the Kanevsky hydroelectric power station finished the Dnieper cascade of dams. Reservoirs. Cascade of the Dnieper reservoirs. On average in the lower current. From the mouth of Pripyat to Novokakhovky. The cascade of the reservoirs formed at construction of a cascade of the Dnieper hydroelectric power stations is located. Kiev Reservoir, Kanevsky Reservoir, Kremenchuk Reservoir, Kamensk Reservoir, Dnieper Reservoir, Kakhovsky Reservoir. Except the Dnieper cascade of big reservoirs, in the basin of Dnieper 498 reservoirs of the smaller size. 45% of total number of reservoirs of Ukraine. With a total area of mirror of 1,532.8 km and with a full capacity of 2.09 km of water function. At the beginning of the odd years reservoirs in Ukraine began to lease. In the basin of Dnieper in Rent there are 41% of reservoirs and 32% of ponds. The cities of Russia standing on Dnieper from a source to the mouth. Verkhnydneprovsky, Dorogobush, Smolensk. The cities of Belarus standing on Dnieper from a source to the mouth. Dubrovno, Orsha, Kopyst, Shlav, Mogilev, Baikov, Robichwov, Flobin, Streshin, Resika, Loyev, Komarin. The cities of Ukraine standing on Dnieper from a source to the mouth. Vojtgorod, Kiev, Pozid, Ukrainian, Wichachov, Preslav Khmelnytskyi, Kiev, Cherkasy, Sverdlovsk, Kremenchuk, Porishny Plavny, Verkhnydneprovsk, Kamensk, Dnipro, Zaporizhia, Vasilievka, Dniprodno, Enerhodar, Nikopol, Kamenka Dnipro, Novovorontsovka, Great Lepotit, Gornostaet, Berislav, Kakhovka, New Kakhovka, Dnipryana, Alyoshki, Kherson, Volozyorka, Naked, Per. Channels. At the expense of the Dnipro water resources, problems of water supply and irrigation of a number of regions of the south and east of Ukraine are solved. Dnieper Donbas Channel. Along the Oral River. The Orelsky Channel, in order to avoid flooding of the mouth of the Oral River in 1967 and the lower reach of the river. Petrakovsky District. From the village of Mogilev, 18 km higher than the old mouth of Orel. To the Uts of Oberkovka throughout 61 came the artificial riverbed of Orel is built. Nowadays Orel falls into Dnipro at distance of 450 km from the mouth of the last at 41 km or lower than the old mouth. Dnipro Channel, Kryvyi Rih. Kakhovsky Channel, southeast of the Kherson region. The Krasnoznamensk irrigating system in the southwest of the Kherson region. The North Crimean Canal allowed to solve earlier considerably a water problem of the peninsula, especially in droughty northern and east Crimea. Then nearly 7 years the channel was blocked in the territory of Ukraine, and in March 2022 the dam blocking the channel was blown up by the Russian troops and water went to the Crimea again. Intulitz irrigating system. Dnieper Intulitz Channel. Problems of Dnieper. Intensive use of Dnieper, especially since 20th century, led to emergence of a number of serious environmental problems. Pollution of waters of Dnieper, industrial and economic and household sewage, and also agrochemical funds which are deposited intensively on a reservoir. Fertilizers, pesticides. In recent years the catastrophic character gets also pollution by household and other waste of river banks and inflows, including vacationers. Radioactive pollution of waters of Dnieper owing to the Chernobyl accident in 1986. This station is in 30 km from the Kiev reservoir. Non-compliance with rules of building and use of a security coastal zone of Dnieper. Bogging of Dnieper. Owing to construction of a cascade of hydroelectric power station, the river on average and the lower current turned into a chain of lakes with almost still water. Also as a result of flooding by reservoirs of the floodplain of Dnieper, unique river landscapes and ecosystems, in particular, the green meadow, disappeared. Because of chronic insufficient funding, the majority of hydraulic engineering constructions and bridges on Dnieper gradually become useless. That threatens with technogenic catastrophes. In March 2010 there was large environmental disaster on the Kiev reservoir. Due to the fast descent of water from a reservoir, there was a strong pestilence of fish. Tons of fish were simply crushed by the fallen ice. By estimates of experts, died from 50–60% of fish. In 1913 Fyodor Sologub wrote the poem, Beautiful Dnieper, Ukrainian River. In music and cinema. In 1941 Mark Fradkin, on Evgeny Dolmatovsky's words, wrote the song about Dnieper. In 1983 there was a concert program, Song About Dnieper. The cycle, Victory Salute, is devoted to the 40th anniversary of release of the city of Kiev from fascist aggressors. In the program of a song of the Soviet composers, the Ukrainian national songs and dances performed by ensemble of a song and dancing of the Kiev military district conducted by Gustavlev, the state ensemble of National Dance Hussar of P. Versky, the state deserved chapel of Bandura players of Ukraine conducted by N. Gvozdia, military orchestra of the headquarters of the Kiev military district conducted by A. Kuzmenko, singers A. Nokrenko, 50. Zakina A. Solovianenko, D. Hanatyuk, N. Obarenko, M. Stefyuk, N. Hanatyuk. Shootings on places of battles, streets and squares of Kiev. The scriptwriter Viktor Murovsky. The director, Viktor Cherkasov. The operator, Alexander Platonov. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.